Comment and question.
Okay.
You mentioned that there's a strong relationship between NIE and ALIS.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And I'm just wondering about, and I'm sure you guys have thought about this, taking the opportunity to get a lot of those Singaporean teachers who are coming back to NIE to do their MA and their MA, and then actually using that as an opportunity to get them either after or during that actual program.
Yes, certainly.
To think about research
yes.
inquiry.
That's right. In fact, I'm glad, David, that you brought that up, because that was certainly something that we thought about as well. And the thriving community that you have here with lots of your MA and MS and PhD students, we have opportunities, in fact, for individuals to be even attached to ALIS at specific periods of time. Some of you may not be aware of this. Currently, we actually have a teacher on sabbatical, and you know that teachers now have PDLs, Professional Development Leave, where you could take time out to pursue your own MA or MA or even PhD. And we have a teacher who actually comes in to us only once a week, but she stays with us for the whole day, and she engages in dialogue with many of us, and does research of her own as well. So that's a special kind of arrangement where she comes in only once a week. At the same time, we have people who come in for a specific period of time. So it could be, for instance, 4 weeks during the break that you can get away from school, or even 2 weeks. So there are various alternative ways of working with us. And that's something that we'll be very happy to talk to you about and to engage you further in the inquiry that we do with schools. So thanks a lot, David, because there are opportunities for many of you to work with us. But bearing in mind that ALIS works primarily with primary, secondary and pre-university institutions, we may be involved more in preschool, perhaps at a later stage. And we also work with the mainstream schools in Singapore, so we don't work with the private international schools as yet. All right, so that might help you to decide on the base that you want to have in terms of where you're citing your work. Yes, yes, Jenna.
I just wonder how you go about selecting the schools that you're working with. Is there a procedure, or is it the schools come to you, or how does it work?
That's a very good question. We do a number of things. One of the things that we notice that we have been doing of late is more a ground-up approach, in the sense that we make contact with people, and this is where we really need to dialogue with different schools, because they are also different. And what we do regularly is to actually hold consultancy sessions with different schools based on their areas of need and based on areas of concern or interest that they may have. That's when we would surface perhaps certain schools that we may want to establish a longer relationship with and to work with them. On the other hand, under the program that we have right now called the Whole School Approach to Effective Communication in English, this is a program that has been systematically rolled out to schools in phases. So we do have schools that have come on board. In the early stages, they were identified. In the way that we have done it recently, we actually invited schools that we felt would be interested in working with us. So it's worked both ways. In the past, when they were identified and they came on board, there was no choice. On the other hand, we found that there were schools that have approached us because of certain areas of interest that they have or need. And that's when we've taken up on some of these schools. Yeah. But very often what we try to do, partly because of the strength of the staff that we have right now, because we are a relatively young institute. For those of you who are not aware, we were only officially launched in 2011. So one of the constraints that we have is a number of staff that we can have to go out to the schools to serve, which is why the zonal arrangement or the cluster arrangement works best for us. Because when we work with a school like Northbrooks is in the North Zone, so ideally the school will then share what they have gained with other schools in the cluster or in the zone. So the networking helps tremendously, and that helps us as well. in terms of managing how many schools we can reach at a certain amount of time, given this, the staffing that we have at the moment.
Given your staffing problem, is it possible for some of our students, graduate students, to work on some of your projects? For their dissertation research, for example.
For their dissertation, I'm quite sure if what they are doing is aligned with what our current inquiry studies are with the schools. I don't see why not. I think there has to be perhaps processes in place and to set up those structures to formalize that kind of arrangement. But certainly when I get back today, I'll certainly raise this with my colleagues to perhaps find ways where we can engage more of you on different studies that we're involved in. Yeah. I mean, currently I'm actually in collaboration with the science faculty from NIE. And I think what he has, though, that's on a funded study, so he has paid research assistants who are with us. So if you come on, I'm assuming that if it's an MA, MEd or PhD postgrad student here, that you're doing it out of your own interest, your own time. And I don't see why we can't have you in collaboration with us. I think that will be a win-win on both sides. But certainly, thanks Wang Wei, I'll bring this back and raise it. I think it's a wonderful opportunity actually to tap on the expertise that we have here. I did want to leave you with one more narrative, and it has to do with maths. And I'm just going to leave this with you because this was something that was happening in the US. And we thought when we shared this with our teachers, they found it very inspiring, and I hope that you will as well, in terms of how we bring language into a subject like mathematics and the interlocking intersections that we have across disciplines. And perhaps while you are sharing that, handout, I'm just going to run the audio clip for you so that you can enjoy it. It's not very long. And hopefully it will inspire you to come up with other narratives of your own.
A hypotenuse caught in love triangle, Hollywood, California, 2007, exclusive to Math Enquirer. Hollywood has long held up hypotenuse as an example of one of the more stable members of the movie community. His marriage to right angle was thought to be a model of timeless love. But this romantic image came crashing down with the release of a tell-all book by an acute angle who claims she has